Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this young lady on. Right before we started today, I told Representative Nancy Mace, don't ever get mad at me because I don't want to sit in front of you as you're asking questions in the House of Representatives. Nancy, good to see you. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been kind of a whirlwind this week. I simply, Joe, was only saying aloud what everyone was thinking on Monday watching that ridiculous hearing with Kim Cheatle from the Secret Service.
What do you think happens? And I want to get into what you asked her, full throated in a second. But what do you think happened? She went in there thinking her job was safe. She went in there thinking that Mayorkas had her, gave her 100% confidence. So did Biden. So did everybody. And then what happened? She does so badly that both sides said, you got to get out, because all of a sudden she resigned before your move to push her out even happened.
Yeah, no, she was brazen, she was defiant, and she was dishonest. And one of the things, that now we've had about 48 hours since the hearing, I think that they probably purposely kept information from her in anticipation of her testifying before Congress. I mean, I think this is the deep state, and this is what they do. To protect their own. And, it's wrong, it's dishonest. The American people deserve answers to their questions. And this kind of brazen middle finger in your face to middle America is basically what they were doing. And somebody's got to be held accountable, because in Biden's and Kamala's failure culture in their administration, it's all lying, it's denying, it's dodging, and no one ever gets fired. No one ever resigns, no one ever gets fired. But we pushed. I believe the impeachment articles that we filed on Monday, because I did it as a privileged motion, meaning I was going to force a vote. I'm
Yeah.
tired of writing strongly worded letters. What action are we going to take? So I was going to force that vote within 48 hours, and she resigned 12 hours after I filed the motion.
I'm glad that
So
she
that
did.
kind of. Mhm.
No, I'm glad that she did, and I guess the question has to be this: did she even want the job? The reason why I ask, had I been in that position, he would not have been shot that day. But let's say it all goes down the way that it did. That night, I would have been on that roof. That day, I would have been in Butler, Pennsylvania. That day, I would have had a meeting with everybody who was on site. What the hell happened? Nancy, she didn't appear to care enough to even go there. She didn't go in the 9 days before she sat down in front of you. That tells me a lot about who she was.
Yeah, lack of morals, a lack of ethical standards, and a lack of honesty, quite frankly. And it was just, the thing that's with me is like, I'm good until we're not. And my red line is when you lie. We can disagree, we can have debates, but the minute that you start lying, it's almost like it's a trigger, Joe, because the American people deserve better than that. And
Yes.
for me, I just, I lose my, what, the minute that you start lying, because the American people, they want the truth. They want honest debate. And that's what this is about. It's not about ego, but it's about honesty and telling the truth to the American people, because they feel misled and lied to for a lot of reasons. You've had Biden and Kamala hiding Biden's cognitive decline over the last 2 years or so. I mean,
Right.
they've been lied to over and over and over again. No one is surprised that this happened. Everyone predicted it for a long time. If you were predicting it, you were a tinfoil hat person, and all of a sudden it happens. But we all knew this was going to happen. We all
Yeah.
knew that this would be, an attempted thing. And so it's just really important that we deliver the truth and nothing less for people.
District 1 Republican, great state of South Carolina. She smoked her competition, backed by Kevin McCarthy, in the primary by 30 points or something. It's Nancy Mace. So you started out by asking her if she wanted your 5 minutes to resign. She said no, thank you. And then you yelled the BS, and then you said the S. And who was it, Hank Johnson or somebody's like, can we keep decorum? Shut up. It was so dumb that they tried to stop you from being very raw with what it was that you wanted to get to the bottom of. But I think that you nailed this a couple of minutes ago, and if you don't mind, expand on this. It sounds like the director of the Secret Service doesn't know what the hell happened that day. How is that possible? Are there layers, do you think, Nancy, between her and the people that were there, where somebody in between is trying to set the narrative? Because we, the American people, still, there is speculation. There were two shooters. There was one shooter. There's speculation that it was inside the perimeter. It was outside the perimeter. They knew about him 3 hours earlier. They knew about him 2 minutes before. They had a bunch of law enforcement inside the building where he was on top shooting the president. Do we know anything more today? And do you think they purposely were going to use her as a patsy?
No, and the thing that really struck me is I do think they purposely withheld information from her in anticipation of her testimony before Congress. That she couldn't even, Joe, she could not even tell us the number of Secret Service agents who were on the ground protecting Donald Trump at the rally that day.
Crazy.
What does that tell you? I mean, either she's an idiot or she's incompetent or there's a conspiracy or all of the above. None of them
Yeah.
are good answers. There's no reason for her to withhold that information unless they didn't tell her.
Is this DOJ gonna level with us, or we're gonna have to wait until the Trump
No,
administration
gosh,
comes in?
no. I don't know. I don't think the DOJ is going to live with us. I don't have faith in Christopher Wray and the FBI. I don't have faith in any of these people because we know that they have covered things up for the last 4 years. We know
It is.
this.
No,
It's
no,
what they
no,
do.
without a doubt. They never, ever give an answer. We saw Ray today, didn't know.
Mhm.
He said that Joe Biden was cognitively fine every time you met with him. I mean, come on. What are we talking about here?
I don't want to curse on your show,
Please
but
don't.
we all know that he's full of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just ridiculous. And now we're hearing stories, off the record from Democrats who've seen Joe Biden in the last year or two, and they say it's shocking his cognitive decline. He didn't know who they were, didn't understand the conversation. That's why they won't release the her tapes. They don't want people to know that they have known for a long time, how long they've known, how bad it's been.
Representative Nancy Mace, District 1 Republican, great state of South Carolina. We appreciate the time and the access. So knowing all of that, what we saw on June 27th exposed it all. I think Joe Biden messed up on Howard Stern and said that he would debate Trump. I don't think he was supposed to say that, but he says it, so they had to make him do it. And once he did it, you saw Jake Tapper and Dana Bash actually show fairness for once in the past 10 years. So you knew that he was on the way out because the media turned on him. And then, as you said, Pelosi quietly turned on him, then loudly turned on him. Other Democrats, he didn't recognize me in France. So they turned on him. Do they want us to believe, Nancy, that they didn't know for 3.5 years that they were covering for him? They're all complicit. I mean, we're not stupid.
Yeah, no, and this is why, the media, I was just on CNN the other night. I'll go into the lines and I'll go on any network. But I told CNN, I was like, it does not matter who they put on the top of the ticket because they've all been part of the lie, all part of the big lie, all part of the big cover up. This is what they've done for, I would guess, over a year, maybe 2 years now, covered up his cognitive decline, covered up his mental acuity challenges that he's had. This is a severely diminished individual from the man that I met 5 or 6 years ago who gave a eulogy at Senator Fritz Holling's funeral
Right.
when I first met Joe Biden. It is a different man today than he was just a few years ago. And so it's all been very obvious, but there's been a cover up by mainstream media, cover up by Joe Biden's family, by Kamala Harris, by everyone in the administration who had access to him. And that's why, that she can't be trusted. You cannot trust the Democrat Party right now because they will not tell you the truth and they will cover it up. And they've coordinated someone. Kamala didn't have to run for election. She didn't run in a primary. This is a coronation. This is an anointment. This is not democracy.
I had Kash Patel on the other day, and he said that, he called it a political insurrection. You're telling 14.5 million voters in the primaries that their votes didn't count. And this is a selection, as you said, not an election. That is a real threat to democracy, although they keep on saying you're a threat to democracy, or Trump is, or I am. They're playing this game where they're basically telling you, without saying it out loud, we're going to tell you who the nominee is going to be. You're going to vote for that nominee and shut up and like it. Nancy, that's not Americans are going to sit back and take that. Not Democrats, not Republicans, are they?
No, they disenfranchise millions and millions of their own voters, which makes the whole thing ridiculous. And yet they're still going to use this attack that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy or that he's attacking democracy when they are literally the ones threatening democracy because they aren't following democratic principles. And it's mind-boggling to me. It's so stupid. The American people are smarter than this, and that's why you're seeing Trump in poll after poll. He's got the wind at his back. He's very strong right now, but we got to keep that momentum going into November. We can't stop now. We can't rest on our laurels. We all need to make sure that we take 10 friends out to vote in November.
Yeah, it's Nancy Mace, District 1 Republican, great state of South Carolina. Kamala Harris, should she actually become the nominee? And Obama hasn't endorsed her yet, and he's pulling the strings. But we'll see. If she becomes the nominee, has never won a primary. She was out before the Iowa caucuses in 2000. She's never won any delegates. And yesterday, she said something about locking in all the delegates. No, you haven't. The presumptive nominee is still Joe Biden. So when he sits down tonight, we're recording this before he speaks tonight. When he sits down tonight, is he going to try to convince you and me, your constituents and my family and friends and my listeners, that he can do the job for 6 more months when he can't do the job of even being the nominee? He couldn't do the job of doing a debate. He couldn't go to France and look cognitive. Is he going to convince us to support him for 6 months? Is he going to resign? What's going to happen tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he if you can't run for reelect due to your decline, you can't run, you can't serve, you can't run for
Right.
office, you can't serve the office, and so that's what makes this whole thing ridiculous. If you were calling for him to drop out of the race, you should be calling for him to resign from office. Otherwise, you look like a hypocrite. Again, they're just not consistent. They're not honest with the American people on any of their positions, and it'll be why they lose in November.
It is Nancy Mace. Go to nancymace.org and you can donate there,
Yep.
or go to, I believe it's mace.house.gov is your official site as well. Follow her on all the social media too. Let me ask you about this Access Act, and I want to ask you in this vein. I saw you and Jared Moskowitz agree the other day. I saw AOC and MTG agree the other day. It was a moment where I went, holy crap. In the last 10 years, I don't think I've ever seen the people that we're looking at agreeing with each other like you did with Kim Cheatle. Didn't take too long for them to kill something that is going to be important for workers. What is the Access Act?
Yeah, the Access Act was a bipartisan bill supported by all Democrats and all Republicans on the Oversight Committee when it passed out a couple of weeks ago. It takes away a regulation that required a 4-year college degree to work on any and all federal contracts. Like there are plenty of jobs that the federal government contracts out with different companies where you don't need a 4-year degree and shouldn't have
Right.
to have one, but they require it. And they were all good until big labor weighed in just hours before the vote. And the reason that big labor killed the bill is because I held a hearing on labor unions just a few weeks ago on the Oversight Committee. They didn't have any edits for the bill. There was nothing in there that affected them negatively or their union members. It was simply merely for the fact that I held a hearing on labor unions that they killed the bill. I mean, this is big labor is the big bully with a big ego. And that's what they did. Like they don't care about the American worker. They don't want to give the guy or the girl who doesn't have a 4-year college degree a leg up in life to get some of these really good jobs with these companies. I mean, they're not for the working man or working woman, but I am, and
Yeah.
I fought hard. We'll try again soon.
Well, I'm confused, Nancy, because the Teamsters guy spoke at the RNC, and he talked about
Yeah.
he wants better conditions for all workers, union and non-union. And I know
Yeah.
that there are a bunch of people in unions that don't have 4-year degrees. Why would the unions be against your bill? Was it only because you had a hearing? Really?
It's only because I had here. We went to the unions. We said, "Hey, what edits do you have? How do you want us to change the bill? We're open to if this is going to hurt your union members, then let's have a discussion about it. I'm open to having the conversation and making the bill better or changing it if it needs to be." They didn't have a single response, and the conclusion was they're just PO'd that I had a hearing on labor unions, and they wanted to act like the mafia and
Wow.
kill the bill, which is what they did. It is stupid. It's un-American. They need to set their egos aside and put the American people in our country first.
And what bothers me is that the Democrats rolled. I mean, the labor union can dislike you
Yeah.
or me or anybody all they want. The Democrats should have done what they said they were going to do. Have you had a one-on-one with them? Hey, what happened? We were bipartisan. What's going on here?
Oh, they won't answer my calls right now. I think they're a little embarrassed with egg on their face. It was a humiliating night for them to go on the record, to go on the floor, people like Jamie Raskin, and talk in support of the bill, telling their members to vote for the bill, only to get rolled by the labor unions a few hours later, and to just fold. I mean, they literally have no principles. Who's going to stand up for the little guy? Who's going to stand up for the hardworking American? Who's going to risk getting primaried or risk having an election because they care so much about America? I'm going to. I don't
Yeah.
care what labor unions think. This is a bill that would help hardworking Americans who didn't have the money or the opportunity to go to college, but yet they're qualified for all these jobs. It's just ridiculous. And I'm going to continue to work and fight hard for every single American, no matter what.
It is U.S. Representative Nancy Mace, District 1 Republican, great state of South Carolina. Let's finish back on Kamala Harris. When it comes to this administration, I think that Trump and J.D. Vance are doing the right thing right now in that they're not focusing on Biden. They're focusing on what this administration has done and how bad it's been. Does Kamala Harris, does she own everything this administration did? I mean, as the borders are, she's ridiculous. As somebody who tries to represent the middle of the road now, according to the media, she's not. She's far left progressive. She's even farther left than Biden is. So is this an easier challenge, do you think, for the Trump-Vance campaign, knowing that Biden's out of the way and you don't have to talk about his 54 years of history? You can go after somebody who has a recent history of being the most progressive leftist senator we've seen in the past 50 years?
Oh, yeah. She's absolutely left of Joe Biden. She absolutely 100% owns everything this administration has done. But when you talk about one of the most disastrous border crises in American history, she was the border czar. This falls at her feet. When you talk about inflation, she was there. When you talk about the cover up of Joe Biden, his enormous decline over the last couple of years, she covered it up. I mean, she's a disaster, and I can't wait to see who she picks for vice president and see JD Vance, as smart as he is, wipe the floor with their lies.
It's rumored that it could be Shapiro out of Pennsylvania. The only reason they would do that, because he just got the job a couple of years ago, is because he's in a state they know they have to win. That's the politics
For
of
no
it, right?
other reason. For no other reason. Yeah.
So when it comes to Kamala Harris debating Trump, we saw what Tulsi Gabbard did to Harris in 2020. I would think that Trump would do the same sort of thing. What does she stand on? Do you think they're going to try to say their economy is the winner? Because it's not. I mean, people know that they're living paycheck to paycheck, can't afford groceries. But what do you think that she brings in a debate against former President Trump?
She doesn't bring anything to the table. I mean, that's the irony and the hilarity of it all, is she doesn't bring anything to the table except for epic disaster at the border. One of the worst economies in history, with inflation as high it is, with no plan to grow the economy or grow GDP in the way that it needs to be done. And
Right.
quite frankly, she doesn't even know the issues. She does not know policy. I mean, and she's addicted to laughing gas. I mean, this is not a serious person.
I haven't heard that one before. That's pretty good. It's U.S. Representative Nancy Mace, District 1 Republican, great state of South Carolina. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for what you did for America on Monday and what you do every day in the House of Representatives. And let's talk very soon. I appreciate you.
NancyMace.org. Thank you.
Go there, /donate. Make sure she gets reelected in November. We'll see you soon. Thank you. We're back after this. Stay right here.